Welcome to the Make Your Money Matter show. I'm your host, as always, Brad Barrett. I'm also a managing director and partner here at One Capital Management. And today on the show, we're going to talk about the magic number. The magic number for you to become financially independent, financially free, whatever you want to define it as. But we're going to talk about that as it relates to your personal finances and your investments. But before we get started, though, make sure to smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. All right, let's get into it. So anytime we talk about your number, I think it's important to remember that for all of us, your number is specific, hence why I'm saying your. It is not your neighbor's number. It's not your colleague's number at work. It's not your cousin or your sister's number or your brother's number. It's yours. The one thing I'll share in nearly 2 decades of being a financial advisor is the ability to make things customized and tailored. And sadly, I think those 2 words have been somewhat watered down. But the reality is, especially here at One Capital Management, those words, we rely on those words. We strive to build unique and tailored programs, plans, and forecasts for our clients in a simple and elegant way. Now, for many of us, as we know, all of us Americans, we're expecting to need more, I think, in the future to retire comfortably than maybe we did yesterday or last year. And that's just a notion of inflation or progress, and that's fine. And ultimately, when you plan out, someone who's in their 20s or 30s, a retirement or a financial freedom forecast, if you want to call it that, if you will, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s, whatever, whatever their goal and their objective is, we need to build that out relative to their age range. So we're encompassing right now the rise of overall costs around us. And I think there are really 4 questions that I boiled this down to that I want to bring up today to get you thinking about what you will need. Now, I want to give you a little insight into something before I get into these 4 questions. Here at One Capital Management, we strive, again, as I shared, to build something we called a spend ratio, a distribution rate. Now, we want our clients to know, and I want all of you to know, frankly, what your magic number is, and what it rests on is a couple of factors of where you are right now. Did you know that if you're in like your 20s or 30s or 40s, or it doesn't matter really what age, frankly, wherever you are right now, you can project with some assumptions, obviously, what the number will be when you choose to, or when you think you would like to, quote unquote, retire. Now, remember, retirement to me personally means becoming financially free or financially independent from a source of income like a job. It doesn't matter what age you're at. Our job is to sit down, I think, with each one of our clients and make sure we define that for whatever, wherever you are in your ages and stages, as I say, or whatever season of life you're in. But know this, if you have $100,000, as an example, hypothetically, saved up in a 401k right now, and your lifestyle needs $4,000 a month to live with no other income sources, right? A $4,000 a month multiplied by 12 to get an annual number is $48,000 a year. You back that off of $100,000 savings, that's a 48% withdrawal rate, way too high. We want that withdrawal rate to give everybody a notion of your magic number between 4 and 5%. There's empirical data that comes out every year on what we call a sustainable retirement number. Now, taking that same example for a second, you would then say, okay, Brad, what number do I need to have a sustainable $4,000 a month? About $1 million, right? Because $48,000 a year divided by $1 million is 4.8%. So that's how you start to get to these ideas of what you may or may not need. Now, some factors that play into here around allocation of your portfolio, I think is important, but it's a pretty good, 20 to 25 year time horizon that if you pull 4 to 5% of whatever number is, to live off of, you should be able to sustain your retirement. But ultimately, answering the question for many, which is, do I have enough money to retire? That's really the question we all have, okay? No matter what age you're in. So the 4 questions I want to bring up to get that analysis are these. Number 1, what is your ideal retirement? Now, you'll notice that this has very little to do with numerical data, right? Doesn't retirement for you, walking away from a job completely? Maybe, maybe not. Or maybe it's finding new work that you now think is more purposeful or passionate. It gives you greater meaning of life. I think one of the best things about a financial plan or a wealth forecast, in fact, I would argue one of the things that is least talked about when it comes to these things, is it provides us one main commodity that we cannot buy: time. And our study shows that with formal planning and discipline, Americans, we all believe we can retire a lot of years sooner than we really imagine. Now, unlocking multiple days of purposeful living, unlocking multiple years of purposeful living. So I argue this, and number 1, before you define, the income or the magic number, let's talk about the qualities of life first. So remember, as I always share, there's the quantitative data, which is, we're going to get into the numbers for sure, but there's also the qualitative. And the qualitative is the first question, I think, which is why I lead off with it. It has a lot to do with your values, your interests, your hobbies, your relationships. These all matter. But number two, this now gets into the numbers, right? What number makes sense? So obviously there's some things you want to consider here. Obviously cost of living, lifestyle, longevity, risk tolerance, ultimately a date, a specific date of when you choose to become retired or financially free. These are a lot of important things to consider here. And I mean, if you look at, certain studies, it shows that Gen Z in particular plans to live until 100 and retire at 60. That's again, it's just a mathematical equation to go with, which gives them roughly, in that scenario, 40 years of retirement. Now, that goal sounds incredible. I think to many watching or listening, does it not, right? But an extended retirement like that demands careful planning. Why? Because you want to ensure that you have enough savings to last that entire time period. Most Americans plan to work until 65, which by the way is up from 64 in last year's study. And I want to share this, and I've shared many times on our show, that that number really comes out of a marketing aspect of what, I think our career should be, basically from what we know as NRA, the national retirement age that the government gives us for certain things like Social Security. Okay, again, this is one of those things I want to say, you should define it for yourself, right? But it's important to kind of know where that second one lies. Number three, the third question here is a question back to the behavioral side of things. And I'd ask this, are you ready? Are you ready for any situation? Because unfortunately, right, unexpected things will happen to all of us. I say this often, right, that the one certainty that we know is there will be uncertainty, and things happen to us at some point in our lives. Maybe it's a layoff, maybe it's a long-term illness, an injury, maybe it's just inflation. But are you ready financially for the unexpected? On average, Americans say there's a 45% chance, 45%, that they may outlive their savings, and the 33% chance that haven't taken a single step to address it. I think the latter number there is more astounding to me than the first part. Now, interestingly, for those who do have a financial advisor, the story is different. 9 out of 10, 89% roughly, of these advisor-client relationships have addressed the possibility of outliving savings. I know with my clients here at One Capital, I've addressed it for every single one of them. Now, I should share a lot of these stats, by the way, and I'm mentioning these where we're getting this data from. It's actually coming from a Northwestern Mutual's 2023 Planning and Progress study. So you can look it up. We'll put the link in there. And to me, the study just validates what I see every day for nearly 2 decades, that planning and discipline are vital. Partnering with an advisor can help people plan for the years ahead and any difficulties they would encounter. And the fourth and final question I bring up to you today is, and again, when we are defining your magic number, is can you fill the gap? Let me describe to you what that gap is. Now, again, from this study, more than 42% of Americans can imagine a time when Social Security won't exist. That I find kind of frankly astounding, and many are depending on it to provide more than 25% of their overall retirement funding. This number goes up, by the way, for boomers and down really for Gen Z and millennials who have really tempered, I think, their expectations for what Social Security will fund for them. Now, Social Security does meaningfully change, right? How will retirees fund the gap? That's where this fourth question comes in. Planning ahead of this possibility can actually help Americans, I think, proactively prepare and not rely on some best case scenario. Let me wrap this up with this crazy aha statement, right? All of us as Americans have millions of reasons to start planning for retirement, but it's important to plan comprehensively. I speak about this often about having a comprehensive plan. It's one thing, I think, to accumulate and grow wealth and the phases of life that you're in. I talk about that a lot, but it's another thing to protect it. Protect it from risks like inflation or market volatility, healthcare costs, and all the things I had mentioned before. And as always, these are the reasons why I recommend having an advisor. I know I sound like a crazy person as on a soapbox saying this, but it's important, right? Having an advisor to help you develop a plan that safeguards, a comprehensive and holistic plan, again, to safeguard, what you've built and what you've created. You want to protect what it is you're working so hard for. And ultimately, that magic number comes down to how much you're going to need to fund the lifestyle gap. And if the number as a percentage ultimately on your overall assets is higher than 5%, you want to kind of act now and work with an advisor to reduce some of that percentage in a way that's brings it to a more sustainable level. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that today. If you did, make sure to subscribe to our show so you don't miss a single episode. And always remember to make your money matter.